Elementary does several things differently to the BBC's Sherlock, but it definitely avoids repeating the British show's mistake when it comes to Moriarty. Following Elementary's Season 7 cancellation, many new viewers are only just discovering the Sherlock Holmes adaptation. In Elementary, Lucy Liu's Watson isn't the only character whose gender differs from the source material, as Moriarty is played by the incredible Natalie Dormer. Dormer features in many of Elementary's best episodes as Moriarty. However, it's worth noting that Elementary's execution of the character is nothing like Sherlock's. While both versions of the character are intriguing and worth investing in, Elementary doesn't fail the character of Moriarty in the same way BBC Sherlock does. Unlike Sherlock, Elementary never became too dependent on Moriarty. Elementary knew when to give Moriarty a break. Natalie Dormer as Moriarty and Johnny Lee Miller as Sherlock Holmes looking at each other during an intense conversation on the street in Elementary. Seeing as how the earlier seasons of Elementary are considered too similar to Sherlock, it's a surprise how differently the show approaches the villain Moriarty. Elementary's take on the character of Moriarty is rather unique in comparison to other Sherlock Holmes TV adaptations. In Elementary, the character is portrayed by Natalie Dormer, one of the best versions of Moriarty in Sherlock Holmes titles. However, it's not just the fact that she is female in this adaptation that makes her unique. This Moriarty is also Irene Adler. Despite Dormer playing not one, but two major characters in Elementary, the show doesn't overly rely on Moriarty either. Andrew Scott's take on Moriarty in the BBC's Sherlock is stellar, and he's clearly born to play the role, but the show brings him back out time and time again. Sherlock is one of Scott's best TV shows, but even when his character is dead, he's still somehow the mastermind of every operation. Elementary's Jamie Moriarty was a fresh new take on the Sherlock villain. Natalie Dormer's interpretation of the character is unique in comparison. Natalie Dormer as Moriarty smiling villainously at something off-screen in Elementary. While Jamie Moriarty Irene Adler is Sherlock's ex-lover, it's not the only thing that matters about the character. Elementary avoids Sherlock's Moriarty problem by making her more subdued yet still mysterious, and not as in-your-face evil as most versions of the character. She also comes and goes, rather than somehow ending up at the forefront of every major story arc. Plus, the fact that Adler and Moriarty are the same person is a refreshing change of pace for a Sherlock Holmes story. Jamie Moriarty dominates every scene she appears in, and it's clear that Natalie Dormer is having fun with the part. She sets her sights on Sherlock after he foils several of her plans while he's at Scotland Yard, tricks him into falling in love with her, and causes chaos. She even continues to have an impact on him while in prison, and Sherlock writes Moriarty letters while she's incarcerated, which is a great way to keep the character relevant while also not overusing her. The Moriarty in the underrated Sherlock Holmes adaptation is somehow more unpredictable than her BBC counterpart, which is really saying something. Sherlock relied way too much on Moriarty and couldn't move on from him. The BBC show didn't know how to use other villains. While I love BBC's Sherlock, I can also see the faults in the show, and the biggest one is that it can't let go of Moriarty. I understand that Scott is a fantastic actor, and his portrayal of Moriarty is one of the very best ever, but this doesn't excuse the fact Sherlock fails to think outside the box, villain-wise. Even when the show tries to introduce new antagonists, like Eurus Holmes or Charles Augustus Magnuson, Moriarty is always the mastermind in all 4 seasons of Sherlock. That's what's so fascinating about Dormer's Moriarty in Elementary. Yes, her main focus is the titular character and their game of cat and mouse, but there is more to her life than just the detective. Sherlock kills off Moriarty in The Reichenbach Fall, which is in Season 2, yet he continues to be the big bad right up until the very end. Moriarty's videos from beyond the grave are a step too far, especially when it turns out he hasn't faked his suicide, something many viewers anticipate during their first watch-through.